Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, we begin Perek Chamish, the 5th chapter in the Hilchos Shvuos, the laws of oaths in the Rambam Sefer HaFlaw, which in this Perek, the Rambam discusses the Shvuos Biter and the Shvuos Shav, that of the oath of utterances and the oath in vain. Which now Halacha the Rambam opens up regarding an oath that is related to someone else's action. Misha Nishba, if someone took an oath, Shazark Ish Plei Nitzar Liyam, that person, some other person, threw a pebble into the sea, V'hu and he didn't throw it in, or he swears he didn't throw it in, V'hu and he did throw it in, so the one who's saying this oath, and it's false, he's not fulfilling his oath of utterances, where he's lying regarding what happened, he's liable for the Shvuos Biter. Now, and there's a chiddush over here. Although you can't have this oath in the future tense. And the Torah says, lahara or lahetiv, which to do good or to bad, which sounds like in the future tense, it doesn't make a difference. It's not the primary element. It's just that it has to be that you could either do good or bad, but it doesn't have to be that you have to be able to do past and future. You could even have a situation where it's only applicable in the past tense, when it's related to someone else doing something. The one who's taking the oath could be liable because it's applicable for the past tense, even though it's not applicable for the future tense, as Rambam explains. Because this person cannot have made the same oath in the future tense. Yizrik, that this person will throw, Yizrik, or that person will not throw, because that person is not in his domain to decide if what that person is going to do, to throw or not to throw. And therefore anyone who makes an oath regarding someone else that he will do something or will not do, even if it's his sons or his wife, he's not liable for an oath of utterance. It's not in his control not to do or not to nullify. Now, in spite of that, we said, so although he does not have such a Shvuos Biter lahaba, but he does have it l'sha'ava as we open up to halacha. Now, regarding this situation, if someone does make such an oath lahaba in the future, that person I swear will throw it or will not throw, which he has no control, they give him rabbinic lashes, because, like we said, he has no ability to fulfill this oath. It's going to be causing an oath in vain, because what are you saying? How could you make such an oath? It's an oath in vain, using God's name for nothing, because you have no control over that. Now, in Halacha Beis, says the Rambam, so why don't you get lashes for the oath in vain? Forget about the oath of utterances, or Shvuos Biter. You're right, that you have no control, there's not going to be considered Shvuos Biter, but why is it not in vain? Says the Rambam, because it is possible for those people who heard he's swearing that what they're going to do, that with this guy that they will fulfill his oath. So it comes out when the witnesses were warning this person when he was taking such an oath, it was only a warning in doubt. And Shein Loikin allow that you can't give lashes on that unless it's a negative prohibition which is explicit in the Torah, where you know what you're warning him. Even though we said that the Rambam holds that you can warn out of doubt and it's considered a warning, but that's only if you're it's warning regarding something definitive over here. And here it's not definitive. Now, the other people who he was swearing regarding, they're not obligated to do what he had sworn about. Unless if they answered yes, like we explained in Perek Beis Halacha Aleph. So therefore, because of this, he's going to be liable because he is setting the stage for a possible that of a Shvuos Shav, so to speak, if they don't do what he had said. But since ultimately it's not definitively like that, because they could do what he had sworn about, so therefore it's not an absolute Shvuos Shav. Now, says the Ram Halacha Gimel, and if they fulfill his words, meaning he swore, I swear they're going to throw it into the sea, and they do, so those people are praiseworthy, because they have not accustomed the one who took the oath, to have said an oath in vain, because it wasn't in vain, because they actually followed through on that. But still they give the person Makas Mardis because, as a penalty, because ultimately he took an oath regarding something he cannot fulfill, and you shouldn't be saying such things. Halacha Daled, Ram continues regarding, however, if it's an oath regarding things, even though it's applying to someone else, but it's regarding something that is in his domain. Says Rambam, when do we say this, that other people are not responsible to fulfill the words of the one that took the oath? They're meshubach, but they're not responsible. Is Kishanish Bal Davashain B'Shusay. If he took an oath regarding something that's not in his domain. For example, Shanish Reuben al Shimon. Reuben took an oath regarding Shimon, Shleyelich B'Schayra, that he's not going to go on the business trip. Or Shleyelich B'Schayra, he's not going to eat meat. But kids about things like that. So I'm not responsible for this guy took an oath. And therefore that's inappropriate. And therefore the one who did it is not doing anything wrong. Let's say Reuben took an oath that Shimon will not come into his house. Over Shlei and Machasav, he's not going to benefit from his properties, which it's regarding what someone else is going to do, but it's regarding his own stuff. The other Shimon, and the Shimon violated this. He went into Reuben's house, and he had benefit from his properties without Reuben's awareness. So Reuben's exempt Sharehu on this because it's beyond his control. It's something that he didn't willingly violate. But Shimon's going to be liable because he violated something which is forbidden for him to do. Because Reuben only took an oath regarding something that's in his domain, which is his stuff, and therefore that will actually prohibit Shimon from having benefit. And anything like that, where if Shimon goes and does benefit, he will have violated that oath. Halacha 8, the Rambam continues regarding what's if, let's say, it's for things that one had taken an oath, which is not really so eligible. Let's say regarding food items. The Rambam says, Shvuos let's say someone says, I swear I'm not going to eat. He ends up eating, but things that are not edible, that are not fit to be eaten. Or he drinks beverages which are not fit to be a drink. Pati is going to be exempt. It's not considered as an oichel, as a shtia that was included in the oath. Now, let's say he ate things which are which are not kosher. It's biblically forbidden to be eaten. For example, and velas, treif, shkatzer, masam, eat an olive size of a dead animal, or treif, or shkatzer, masam, which types of bugs and vermin which are asam Torah to anyways eat. He's going to be exempt from his oath that he had taken that he's not going to eat, because his oath of utterances did not take effect on something that's already biblically forbidden, because it's like in shvu chala al shvu, because he's already what's called mushba b'im har Sinai. He already took an oath by har Sinai that you're not going to eat these things, which obviously he's going to be liable for eating the nevelos and trevis and so on, but for the shvuas b'itui, he has not violated. Now let's say the other way around. Let's say shvu sha'oichel. Let's say he swears, I'm going to eat. V'achal, and he doesn't eat that day, but v'achal achal she'in rum lachil. The only thing he ate was things that are inedible. Or he drank things which are not things that are not usually a drink. Or he ate things which are not kosher. Again, he's going to be exempt from the shvuas b'itui, which is actually the inverse. It's actually the opposite of the first half of the halacha. Because ultimately he did fulfill his oath that he's going to eat, which he swore that he's going to. But what do you mean? I thought these things are not edible. They're already biblically prohibited. Yeah, because since they're significant by him, their eating is considered as an act of eating. Now, in contrast, when he swore he's not going to eat, so his oath was not taking effect on things which are not edible or are things that are biblically prohibited. Because for things that are not edible, he didn't have to swear regarding. So when he says, I swear I'm not going to eat, that's only for edible things. Whereas if he swears I'm going to eat, and he eats, that act of eating is saying, well, I ate. And therefore that's the contrast between those two halachas, and therefore there he will not violate on that, and therefore both cases like me pater, but for that of opposite reasons. Continue next halacha vav shvu shlo ichalti. Let's say someone says, I swear I'm not going to eat. Shlo ichalti, that I didn't eat. V'ochel dvarim she'im l'chila in the veils of trevis, and he actually did eat, but he ate things which are inedible or things that are not kosher. So Chaim, in this case, he is going to be liable. Why? Because there the eating was an eating. Because they were already obviously significant by him, because he ate them before he even took the oath, without any reason. Now that he's swearing that he didn't eat, obviously he's lying, because you did eat. It's something that's not considered quote eating. Of course it's eating, because you ate it with unrelated to anything already prior. Obviously for you it's considered eating. Now, Aval, this is what the Rambam is trying to resolve from the previous halacha. But regarding the future tense, that's the difference between if he swears he didn't eat versus if he swears that he's not going to eat. And that happens and he eats these things which are inedible. That's not considered that he ate because it's not significant. What do you mean, I is eating it? Because he can't eat anything else. So he has to find something to eat. So he'll eat what's inedible. Like I explained in the previous halacha, and that's why over here he's going to be potter. Halacha Zayin. Shvuos l'oichel kosher from the veils of trevis. Let's say someone says, I swear I'm not going to eat a minute amount from something that's not kosher, not slaughtered or treifa. And he eats less than the size of an olive. Well, Chai b'shvuos, he's going to be liable for the oath. That is because in the mushbal chatzi shema Sinai, it wasn't considered that he was swearing on something that has already had an oath already from Har Sinai, because although chatzi shir, the half of the measurement, which is he's saying even less than the kazayas, is already biblically prohibited, you just don't get lashes. But that's not considered mushba mahar Sinai because it's not an explicit isser in the Torah. It's only forbidden because it could combine to be a complete shir, and since it's not mushba by mahar Sinai, So therefore, this that he swears is not going to eat, even my Nudam and he does, well, that's a Shvuah that he's violating. They say he's not going to eat, and he did eat, because it's not already included in the Issa Torah, which only that of a Kazais. Halacha Ches, Shvuah she'oichel pachas megazais in the veil trade, but let's say the other way around. He swears, I will eat from this not kosher thing, even less than the Kazais. So Chai b'Shvuas Bita, so he's going to be liable for his, meaning he's going to be obligated in the Shvuas Bita, on some level, meaning if he can't be Mata the Neder, that he actually should eat and not violate his oath, which he swore he's going to eat it, because this is not Mushba by Mahar Sinai, because we said he's talking about less than the Kazais, so the Shvuas Bita is taking effect, that he has to eat from that not kosher thing, which is, he's saying, on less than the Kazais. Let's say let's say he says, I swear I'm not going to eat earth or similar things which are not edible, not things that are normally eaten. So if he eats a Kazais, well, Chayiv obviously is going to be liable because he had a share of earth. Let's say let's say it's less than a share of a Kazais. So raise a subject, that's already a situation of doubt. Maybe he'll be liable even for a minute amount. It's not normal to eat earth, to say that you need to have the sheer, quote unquote, the measurement of achila, which is kazayis, because it's not a meichel. So therefore, that's a doubt if that's be considered an achila even by minute amount, because you're saying you're eating on dirt, that maybe that would be even a minute amount. And so if someone took an oath that he's not going to eat a grape seed, and he ate grape seeds less than that of an olive size, here's a suffix. It's a doubt because on the one hand, grape seeds are usually with grapes, and therefore maybe you have a share of like grapes, which would be like any food item in Kazayas, or maybe that since you don't usually eat grape seeds on their own, so it'll be like that of the earth, which maybe even minute amount would be considered already a share of achila. Now, but let's say let's say the one who's take this oath that he's not going to eat grape seeds is a nazir. Shu also is already forbidden in grape seeds the share of Kazayas for his naziris. Now he eats less than the olive size of grape seeds. Here in the Chai b'Shvuas B'Di, he's not going to be liable for the Shvuas B'Di. Why? Because although in general we're in doubt that maybe the achil would be even less than the Kazayas, here it's obvious, it's evident from the fact that he's a Nazir. His whole intention of making this oath on the grape seeds was Ella al Kazayas Shu Mishbala, was only on that of a share of a Kazayas, which he already had taken the oath of Naziris, and he's just doing it to keep himself strong, not to violate his Issa Torah that he has of Naziris, and therefore the oath is not going to take effect because again he's already mushbal of Mahar Sinai not to eat chartz in the Sheva Gazayis from his oath of Nazirs. So the fikr liver, since the whole reason why the oath is not going to take effect in this case is because he's mushbal ba'imit, because he's obligated to keep his mitzvah of Naziris. In Perish Vamav, he explicitly says, Shvuos lo'ichel chartz echad, I swear I'm not going to eat one grape seed, v'achalein eats it, well then chayiv, then he is going to be liable because the Nazir himself was never prescribed on that of one grape seed, and therefore it's not shvuah chala shvuah, and therefore this shvuah will be the first in its kind, less than that of a kazayis, and therefore he's going to be chayiv for that oath. Let's say he says, I swear I'm not going to eat dates, and not kosher, meaning a dead animal or a trefa. And then he eats a kazayis of the not kosher, the nevelo trefa. Meaning besides the ism nevelo which he's violating, he's going to be liable for the oath of the utterance that he took. Why? I thought it's mushbav Mahar Sinai. Yeah. Because in that oath, he included things that were forbidden with things that were permitted. And the chiddush is that we don't say that no, that he's not going to be liable until he eats the dates with the nevelis, because he didn't say that tamar and nevelis as one, for sure he had in mind each one individually. But since that oath is taking effect because of the dates which are not forbidden, so chalal dvar masum is also going to take effect on things which anyone's forbidden already before. The nevelis and trefis, like we explained in the previous parak, in parak dah halacha yid aleph. In halacha yid aleph, the Rambam continues regarding an oath on something that's already forbidden to eat. Let's say someone, however, takes an oath that he's not going to eat a nevela, treif, or anything like that which is biblically forbidden, which is already an oath from Har Sinai. It's called mushba Har Sinai, that he's not going to eat them. So bein achel, bein lo achel. So if he took an oath that he's not going to eat it, which again this oath is really has no relativity because you're already forbidden from your primary oath at Har Sinai. So whether if he eats the nevel treva or doesn't eat it, in kanchiv shvu klal, there's not going to be any liability of his oath, because again, the shvu is not taking effect on the prior shvu that he had from Har Sinai, that he already had taken a communal oath not to eat nevel trevas. So there is not going to violate l'shvuas bita because there's no oath of utterance here, and l'shvuas shav neither is going to be an oath in vain because he didn't swear that he's going to nullify the mitzvah, but rather to fulfill it. And regarding that, that's not in vain because he's doing it to be mizaris himself, and therefore there's no violation of oath here at all, whether he eats or doesn't eat. Now halachid beis nishba sheyoichel nebel treifa. Let's say, however, he swears that he's going to eat not kosher, because it's been misur Torah or any violation of biblical law that he swears he's going to violate. So he's going to get lashed because of an oath in vain, which because he's swearing to nullify a mitzvah, which is obviously an oath in vain, like we said in the first parak and halach above, we're obviously in vain because we have to do the mitzvahs. And that's bein ochel bein lo ochel. So whether if he eats the treif or doesn't eat the treif, the moment he says it out of his mouth, it was already oath in vain. Halach yid gimel. Let's say shvuos shel ochel kiguz. Let's say he says, I swear I'm going to eat this loaf of bread, and then he says shvuos shel ochel, and I swear I'm not going to eat it. So hashniya shvuos sham. The second oath is an oath in vain. Why? Because you already have a commandment to eat it because of your first oath, and that's considered making an oath to be mevatel a mitzvah, and therefore v'loikal shvuos shniya. They were going to get lashes right away for the second oath for an oath in vain, which is to nullify your mitzvah, because you already have a mitzvah because you already took an oath that you're gonna eat it. And therefore, he gets these lashes bein ochel bein loichel. Whether he eats or doesn't eat, it doesn't make a difference. It was already shvur shav. Now, if he ultimately does not eat it, then chayav af b'shvush bita. Then he's going to be liable also for the oath of utterances, which was his first oath, because that he swore he's going to eat it. And if the time expires that he had said, and he doesn't eat it, well, then he's going to be liable for that shvush bita. Halach yidalad, which is the same thing, the flip side, shvush loichel kigazu. Let's say someone says, I swear I'm not going to eat this loaf of bread. And then he says, shvush loichel, and I swear that I'm going to eat it. So hashniya shvuos shav. The second oath is already automatically an oath in vain. Shari zu asuro lav la'achel, because it's already forbidden him to eat it because of his shvuah. So the second oath you're going to get lashes right away, whether he eats or doesn't eat it, because that was in vain. You're saying the opposite of what your oath was, which is nishbel matla mitzvah. Now the machal, if he ultimately eats it, then he'll be liable for also his oath of utterances, because you already swore the first oath that you're not going to eat it. Which again, that's the flip side. It's just telling us that hen v'lav, both positive and negative in regards to the same case. Now Ram continues regarding taking an oath regarding a mitzvah. V'chein, as we were saying, anyone that takes a vow to nullify a mitzvah, v'loy bitel. Now, so if he doesn't nullify it, so he's going to be exempt from his oath of utterances because the shvuas bita does not take effect on the dvar mitzvah, only takes effect on dvar rishus. So the fact that he's swearing that he's going to nullify mitzvah has no relevancy. Now, but he's going to get lashes for an oath in vain, and actually, and we actually tell him to do the mitzvah that he swore that he's going to nullify, because again, the shvuas bita did not take effect at all, and the shvuas shav, you're already getting lashes anyway, because what are you doing taking such an oath that you're going to nullify, and therefore, so he has to go ahead and do this mitzvah. Says Ram in Lachat Azav Ketza, how so? Let's say he swears, I'm not making a sukkah. He's not putting on tefillin. And he's not going to give tzedakah. Or someone swears to his friend, I swear I'm not going to say testimony for you with testimony that I know, which all these are mitzvahs to do. Or I swear I'm not going to testify for you if I know testimony. So right away he gets lashes because he's commanded to say testimony, and obviously all those other well-known mitzvahs. If someone says to his friend, I swear I'm not going to know for you any testimony. That's an oath in vain. It's not in his control to know that if he's going to know testimony or not, because he might end up finding out. He doesn't know that. Anything like this is considered a shvuah shav, where you're swearing against something that the reality, whether it be halachic reality or the sensory reality, denies what you're saying. Halach design, let's say nishbel l'kaima said mitzvah. Let's say he swears he's going to fulfill a mitzvah, v'loikim, and he doesn't fulfill it. Patam shem shvuas bita, he's still exempt from the oath of utterances. He swears he's going to do it and he doesn't do it, he's exempt. Kate said, how so? He swears he's going to make a lulav or a sukkah, he's going to give charity to a poor person, or he's going to say testimony for him if he knows testimony. And he didn't make the lulav of the sukkah, and didn't give him tzedakah, and didn't say the testimony. He's exempt from the fact that he swore and he didn't do what he said. The reason is, as we mentioned this before, because the oath of utterance only takes effect on something that's a voluntary element. Meaning, if he wants to, he could do it. If he doesn't want to do it, he doesn't have to do it. What is the source? Like it says in the Pasuk Mikra, lahara or lahativ, to do bad or to do good, which is, just like obviously doing bad is something that's a devar rishos, because devar mitzvah, you cannot do, quote, do bad and nullify it, because you're mushbah b'mar Sinai. So then also the doing good is also something that has to be voluntary, which tells us that we're not talking about someone who's swearing to even fulfill a mitzvah. Therefore, that since the Pasuk is only talking about devar harishos, regarding that of neutral elements. So, if someone swears that he's going to do bad to someone, he's going to harm someone, he's exempt from the oath of utterance if he doesn't fulfill it. For example, he's playing, I swear I'm going to hit that person. He's going to curse him, or he's going to steal his money, or he's going to give him over in the hand of a gangster. If he doesn't fulfill it, he's exempt. Because you're commanded not to do it. And therefore, that's not included in any part of doing or not doing of to harm a person, and says around me, and it appears to me, but he will get lashes in this latter half of if he swears that to do bad to someone else for oath in vain, because he's mitzvah, and you're being nishba levatel as a mitzvah, like kaim as a mitzvah. Again, there's no shvuos shav, but there's no shvuos bitui. Here there will be a shvuos shav, and the reason why Rambam said the Yerali is because it's the other cases where binom lamakom. Here it's even binom lachaveiroi, where the person could be Michael, still the person's he's swearing to Lavatlus Mitzvah, he's going to get lashes for that of Shvuos Shav. Halachi Zayin, let's say Nishba Lahar Asma, let's say he swears that he's going to harm himself. Let's say he swears that he's going to injure himself. Although he's most definitely not allowed to. But Shvuah Chalav, here the oath will take effect. And it's not considered Nishba Lavatlus Mitzvah because it's not explicit halacha in the Torah. It's only learned from a medrash from the Chachamim. So it's in a way similar to the halacha of Chatzi Shir that we said in halacha Zayin, which it is usher, but it's not explicit. And therefore, if he doesn't harm himself, then he's going to be liable for not fulfilling his oath of utterances. Let's say Nishba Lahetiv Lacherim. Let's say he swears he's going to do good to someone else. Which is a good that it's in his control to do or not to do. For example, he swears that he's going to speak to the government for him, or he's going to honor him. A shvuah is chalav. The oath is going to take effect on him, because here you could have hen valav, yes or no, because if he wants to, the inverse doesn't mean harming him, it just means not doing the favor for him, like a gift for a wealthy person. So therefore, if he violates and he doesn't do what he promised, he's going to be liable for the shvuah of the bitu. Now, although we said that Nishba L'Batel is a mitzvah, is not going to take effect for Shvuos Bitui, but Nishba Shelo Yichel Matzah Shonosh Nesayim. Now, Halachit Ches Rambam says, let's say he swore, Shelo Yichel Matzah Shonosh Nesayim, swear, matzah, no, I'm not doing that. For a year or two, it's sworn off. Actually, the oath is going to take effect, and he's forbidden to eat matzah on the Seder night. The Machal he eats, he's liable for the oath of utterances. And the Rambam addresses, says, why isn't it considered an oath in vain? Because he's not taking an oath, he's not going to eat it on the Seder night, which that would be trying to swear that you can mevatel mitzvah, which doesn't take effect. Elokal eatim, rather he's including all the time, shachilas matzah b'mershus, which any other time but the Seder night, it's voluntary. He's including that in a shachilas b'mitzvah, with the time that's also mitzvah, which obviously in the whole year is also Seder night. Since the oath takes effect on every other day of the year, so it's also going to take effect on the Seder night. Anything that's similar to this. For example, he swears, I'm never sitting in the shade of a sukkah ever. I'm not wearing any garments for the next year or two, which therefore obviously you cannot sit in the sukkah on sukkahs, and they can't not have the mitzvah tzitzis, or whatever the mitzvah is regarding garments. That's not considered nishba lavashkel as a mitzvah, because it's included in that of a devar shus. Halacha test. Let's say nishba sheniach tefillin hayom. This will continue on the theme of mitzvahs. Let's say he swears sheniach tefillin hayom that he put on tefillin that day, or he swears he didn't put on tefillin, or shenasad b'tzitzis he swears that he put on tzitzis, or shenasad that he didn't put on tzitzis. Here the oath of utterances will take effect, although we said regarding fulfilling a mitzvah or nullifying mitzvah, we said it doesn't take effect. That was only regarding the future tense. Here it's regarding the past tense, then he's going to be liable. Because, and although there's no lahaba in this oath, But we had already previously said that you don't, in the opening halach of this parak, you don't need to have laba to have the lasha'avar. You just need to be able to have hen v'lav, that you can go either one or the other. And here, how is it possible to have one way or the other? What do you mean? You have to put on form. It's regarding, because here it's just regarding the story. He's saying what happened. It's not swearing regarding the oath, regarding the mitzvah, not to fulfill it, not to nullify it, which neither one of those you have rights to, but that's regarding the future tense. Regarding this past story, where he could say either one, hen or lav, so therefore he's going to be violating the Shvuos bitu when he says this false oath regarding what he had done or not done early in that day. Halach Chav, the Rambam continues regarding an oath regarding something that's not possible or inappropriate. Let's say someone swears he's not going to sleep for 3 days. Or he's not going to eat anything for the next 7 days. Okay, or anything similar to that, which is not possible for a person to fulfill. That is an oath in vain. So the halacha is, we don't say, let this guy try to stay up until he's in pain. Or let him fast until he's in pain. When he's not going to have strength to hold out, and then okay, then the oinus, what are you going to do? Then he eats and then he sleeps in those two respective cases. We don't say that. We rather we give him lashes right away because it was an oath in vain. And he could eat and sleep whenever he wants to because it's not a shvuos bita, it's a shvuos shav. Shvuos shav, you get lashes, you're done, and therefore he could eat or sleep. Let's say someone swears he saw a flying camel in the air. They say to him, how can you take an oath in vain? What are you talking about? Vami says, no, he says, I saw a large bird. It was so big, so I called it like a camel, like how big a camel is. And that's what I had in mind when they said I saw a flying camel. So it says Rambam, that's not a good answer. That's nothing. You don't call a camel a camel. And therefore, his intentionality is nullified regarding most of people of humanity. But like, he's going to get lashes for the shvuos shav because you're lying. There's no such thing as a flying camel. And then similar to that, he can't say, "Oh, I was calling it a camel." No, that's considered shvuos shav. Halacha beis Dua Itzla Chacham says the Ram in words of introduction says it's well known by the sages, Bali Seichel Amada, by people of intelligence and understanding, that the sun is bigger than the planet Earth, 170 times larger. Now, let's say let's say a person from the people, he swears that the sun is bigger than the Earth. So says Rambam, he's not going to get lashes because of an oath in vain. Where? Although that is the reality, and we said that if you're swearing regarding something that's obvious that it is, that's an oath in vain. Because this is not something that's well known by the populace. Only to the great sages and men of intellect, only that. And the liability is only it's only if you swore regarding something that's well known for 3 people from the populace of the people. He swears a man is a man, the a rock that's a rock. That's considered shvuos shav. But here, although the reality is what he's swearing, it's not considered in vain because many people don't know that. So too the other way. Let's say he swears that the sun is smaller than the earth. He's not going to get lashes. Now, although that's not the reality, but it's not well known for people. Because the Ein commission nishba isha isha, which is the other type of oath in vain. It's not like someone who swears regarding a man that he's a woman, which that is also another type of oath in vain. Here it's not like that. How could he say that the sun is smaller than the earth? Because only swearing regarding what he sees with his eyes. When you look at the sun, it looks smaller, and therefore that's not considered in vain as if you're swearing regarding an obvious contradiction to reality, because it's not. And anything that's similar to this from the calculation of the seasons and the calendar, mazalis regarding astronomy, and v'gematriyos, and regarding the mathematics and geometry, or anything that's from words of great wisdom, which is only recognizable for other types of people. If someone swears regarding the reality that it is, or the reality against it, actually that's not, neither one will be considered that of a shvuos shav, because it's not in vain, because it's not an obvious reality that it is this way or that it's not this way, and therefore a person would not be liable in those situations for shvuos shav.